Hi, today we'll be talking about types of assessments. My name is Autumn Giles. I'll be the speaker of this presentation, and mainly I'm going to focus on a lot of information from the book Therapeutic Recreation Practice: The Strengths Approach by Lynn Anderson and Linda Hain. So I hope that you enjoy. So first off, I'd like to define what an assessment is, and I found this definition from the American Therapeutic Recreation Association. And they stated the recreational therapist conducts an individualized assessment to collect systematic, comprehensive, and accurate data necessary to determine a course of action and subsequent individualized treatment plan. So without an assessment, you really can't begin the process of implementation or evaluation or any of that until you've got have enough information to go off of what the client actually needs. It's the very first step in the APIE process. There are several common assessments used in TR. I'm just going to point out 5 that are usually used within therapeutic recreation. And the first is a record review, and this can be a number of things. It can be a medical record, educational file, case file, and basically it's just a review of information that's has already been maintained or obtained from the client that has been worked with in past facilities or other areas. And it's important to keep in mind that a record review is just finding like the basic information of a client, and it helps you, it provides a history of the client so that you can have a place to start. And the next type of assessment is an interview, and this is the most powerful method of assessment in recreational therapy. One thing to keep in mind is that it can be biased as well as be time-consuming. And there are several types of interviews that can be used. One is the conversational interview, and this one's not really preset. You're just kind of getting to know the client, just asking them basic questions and making sure to take note of those answers that they give you. With the interview guide approach, this is more predetermined, so you'll have like a list of questions that you have in mind to ask the client, but as you get with them, maybe you switch questions around a little bit and just play it by ear, so it's more set than the conversational type of interview, but it's still a little bit open-ended. And moving on to the standardized open-ended interview approach, this is more structured than the previous two in that the questions are set in advance and you're going to follow exactly how it's outlined on that sheet. Open-ended just means that the client can answer however they'd like. There's not like a set answer that they need to, that you are looking for as the therapist. And then the final interview that I have on here is the standardized close-ended interview, and it's pretty much the same as the previous, except that it's close-ended answers, and so it's a fixed response for the client. And then another assessment tool that is used in therapeutic recreation is observation. So this can be like unstructured or naturalistic to highly structured, just depending on the environment you decide to observe the client in. And there are really just 3 basic steps to go off of when you are starting the observation process. And first, it's deciding what behaviors or situations you're looking for. And that can help you move on to the next step, which is the type of observation needed. And also decide before you observe, like where you're going to observe the person at, how long about you're going to observe them, the tools that you need. Maybe you're doing like a quantitative or qualitative report as you're observing, or maybe you have like an outline of questions that you have and you're looking to answer these questions as you observe the client. Maybe how are they interacting with others, what is their general behavior, things like that. And a standardized assessment tool measurement, these are kind of specific to what you're looking for on a client. So maybe you're trying to measure a particular aspect of somebody, and maybe you'll use a survey to determine what you're looking for, or you could use a scale and written assessment forms. So it's a little bit more broad in that there's multiple tools that you can use in this assessment. And then an ecological assessment is an assessment that looks at the person in their environment. So maybe this could include their home life, their family, their friends, their community resources, and then you're going to look at several aspects of their characteristics. So like what are they doing in their leisure time? What are their goals and dreams? How are they interacting with other people? What's their physical health like? And also spiritual, psychological, and emotional health. So it considers all these things, and there's a variety of tools that can be used to do that. So maybe this is also something you could do through observation or an interview. And it's another broad assessment that can be used in therapeutic recreation. So I found a few different resources that you can use. These are some good websites that I've listed, and also the book that I've been referencing has some awesome formats in here, as well as like a list of different assessments that can be used. The first one is from recreationtherapy.com, and there's a good list of different forms that you can find on there. If you search for assessments, there'll pull up a list of about 5 or 6 copies of forms that you can use to assess someone. Also, the third one listed is another form that I thought looked really great. And then the fourth is a list of potential interview questions that you could use if you were to use an interview as your assessment. And there's a lot of considerations also when you're choosing an assessment, because not every client is going to be the same. And so here's just a few things that you can look at. So for one thing, how much time does a client have to perform this assessment? If they're on kind of a time crunch and you need to get this assessment done, then a lengthy interview is probably not the way to go. So maybe you'll have them do a record review and look at their different information there, or maybe you choose to do one of those standardized measurements of doing a survey, have them fill that out, or you could have them fill out a format answering different questions. And then also depends on the population you're working with. So if you're working with somebody who's nonverbal, interview is probably not the best way to go, because they're not going to be able to answer you. So maybe you'll do an observation. That would be a good one to choose. And also something to consider is you may need an approval of someone other than the client themselves. So maybe the parent or guardian of a child you're working with needs to know if you're going to perform an interview or if you're going to observe them somewhere. That's probably something that needs to be cleared with the guardian before you do that. And also, what are you looking for? Is there a specific something you're looking at, or are you trying to look at just a general overview of the client? If you're looking for something specific, maybe it's best to do like a standardized measurement, so like a survey or a scale. And then also one-on-one versus group. It may be a little awkward to do an interview with each person if there's other people around. People may not be able to open up in that environment. So if you ever are in like a group situation, you might want to do just observation or a standardized measurement with them as well. And here's just a few sources that were used on this presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those. But I hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something new. Thank you.